You will need necessary materials. I'm skipping down. You will need computer access. This is a class conducted entirely online. If you don't have reliable internet access, you've got to get it. Otherwise, you need to talk to me, talk to the registrar about getting into a seated course. This is going to be impossible to do if you don't have access to the internet that's reliable. I hope that that's obvious, but if it isn't, please, please, please make sure that that gets taken care of. So, again, this class is entirely conducted online. It's computer-based. I am not a technical support expert. I can answer some questions. There are things, though, that you will probably need to direct to computer services or to Blackboard support. There are links to those things on Blackboard. We'll talk about that more in the Blackboard walkthrough. Technical difficulties are not going to be acceptable reasons to miss work in this course. Now, there are going to be exceptions to that. The basic thing to pay attention to there is contact. If the essay is due and you tell me that your computer is broken down, that's going to be a worse situation both for you and for me, and less likely to result in me taking late work. There are very few situations where I will take late work than if you have a problem and you let me know well in advance. And then we can work out a solution for you. Just jumping back again, and we'll come back to this in the late work policy. Remember, this course is, even though you're sitting potentially at home and maybe 50 miles away from campus, and you're not next door to your peers in the classroom or with me standing right over your shoulder like we would be if we were in a brick and mortar classroom, this class is based on peer feedback and on feedback between me and you. That means that you've got to be there and participating in all of the elements. Otherwise, the process just won't work. Okay, so please, please, please do everything you can to keep that up to date. Word processing software is also going to be necessary. I will be opening all of your documents that you send to me in Microsoft Word for Mac. If you are not using Microsoft Word, I would encourage you to find a way to get it. If not, though, be sure that you've saved your file as a kind of file format that I can open in Word. So if it's an RTF, that will work. If it's a PDF, I can open it, but I can't give you feedback. So please be sure that this is going to be a file format that will open in Microsoft Word. And if you have any questions about that, please email me and we'll work something out. I'm not going to require you to purchase Office if you don't have access to it already. Okay, now we get into grading and also how the course is set up a little bit. So one of the things that you'll notice if you look through the game plan or if you look through the upcoming week's materials or if you look through the course documents and the project handouts, your major work that you'll turn in for peer review, to me for feedback, and then ultimately in a final portfolio consists of 6 projects. Okay? This class is centered around what we call the researched argument. It's project 4, if you want to take a look at the description of the assignment, which you have already on Blackboard. Project 4 is an 8 to 10 page argument paper. It's not just an informative paper. You've got to make an argument, so you have to have something that you want to prove to me, and then a presentation of evidence to prove that, essentially. 8 to 10 pages. You'll find, if that sounds daunting to you, that a lot of the work that we do building up to it will help you get to those 8 pages. The first 3 assignments that we do are there to help work up to Project 4, and you'll be able to include some of the materials that you use in those first 3 projects in that Project 4. Projects 5 and 6 are analyses of that Project 4, of your own writing. So the first will be an argument analysis of your own argument, and then the second will be an ethical analysis of your argument. So essentially, this whole class is built around making one very good argument, and everything else that we do is there to help you do that to the best of your ability, and also to help get you in the frame of mind where you are capable of making that kind of argument again and regularly. Okay? So, essentially, we'll have about 4 different kinds of work that you'll do. One of them is either a reading or a rhetorical analysis journal that you'll turn into me every week. One of them is the weekly coursework, sometimes in the discussion board. Sometimes there'll be other activities that I send you to do. This is the kind of thing you would be doing in a seated class, out loud sometimes, but you'll have to do it in writing in this case. And then also sometimes these are things that are exactly what we would do in a seated course. And you'll have an outline of what that work will be every week. The third kind of work that you'll do is peer review of these 6 projects, where you submit that paper to one another and you give one another feedback, and I'll give you guidelines on how to do that each time. Then there's, of course, the project themselves submitted to me for my feedback. And then ultimately, at the end of the class, you'll submit a portfolio of revised work. Now, you've heard me say this a few times, so just to make it very clear, in addition to the weekly work you do every week, these 6 projects will all be turned in 3 times, all but one. In the final portfolio, you get to choose to leave one paper out. It can't be your research paper. It can't be your project 4, but it can be any of the other projects. But with that one exception, you'll turn in every one of these projects 3 times. The first time, it's to peers. The second time, it's to me for my feedback, and you won't get a letter grade from me at that time. You'll just get feedback and what we call an advisory grade. More on that in a second. The third time you turn it in will be the very last week of class, finals week. You'll submit your portfolio, and that will be the last version of the paper that you turn in class. That's the one that gets a letter grade. Okay? If you look back at your syllabus now, here the course grade is broken down. Half of your grade comes from those final drafts, the quote-unquote final drafts that you turn in your portfolio at the end. That's half of your grade. There are 100 points in this class. Really, there are only ever 100 points in any of your classes, if you think about it. But in this class, there are literally only 100 points. 50 of them come from that final portfolio. So the first 50, that's what you earn going up to finals week. In finals week, that's when you get half your grade. Okay? Don't panic, because everything that you get there is going to be based on the revisions that you do on the work that we work on all semester.